Lou, I'm super excited to have you on synthetic.com Zoom call. I just want to start off by saying this is not a recommendation to buy or sell any securities, and potential investors should do their own due diligence. So, for listeners, Lou Binder is the president and CEO of Intensity Therapeutics. It's a clinical stage biotech company focused on novel immune-based intratumoral cancer therapies. These delivery technologies are designed to kill tumors and increase immune responses and recognition of cancers, in particular, triple negative breast cancer. Now, I met Lou on a Zoom call about a year ago and was really glad I took that call because I almost didn't. And then we were able to catch up at Wainwright conference in September, I think. And I'm just going to let you go with it and describe your clinical programs. But first, my favorite part is the story you have about how you started this. This is your IP. You bootstrapped this company to basically to state phase 2 trials with your own resources, and I think just a few small investors along the way. It was just an impressive story, and I'm so glad I've followed your story because it's evolving fast.
Well, first of all, Simmons, thank you so much for allowing me an opportunity to speak with your audience about what we do. So yes, I am a chemical engineer by training, and I think about cancer from the physical, not from the biological. And I worked at a company called Hemisphere Technologies, which was the developer of a technology to make proteins able to be dosed by mouth orally. Now, if you know what a protein is normally digested, and the oral delivery of proteins was considered the holy grail of drug delivery back in the 90s and 2000s. And I worked at Hemisphere. I did a lot of jobs. I was head of business development. I was head of manufacturing process development. I became president and CEO of the company. And then I left, and in 2020, I believe, Novo paid 1.8 billion for Hemisphere, and using the Hemisphere technology created Rybelsus, which is a blockbuster drug. And I was the part of the team that helped to create the scale-up manufacturing of that delivery technology. But my understanding of the delivery technology was that it moved molecules through tissue. And so understanding that, I was about 12 years ago interested in helping patients with cancer. I've had multiple friends die of cancer. I was the CEO of a company that was in personalized medicine, and I learned a little bit about cancer. And I thought that the holy grail of cancer would be intratumoral delivery. And that had been tried for many, many years. Intratumoral delivery is trying to put a water-based material, because drugs have to be soluble in water, into a dense, stromal, fatty, pressurized environment of a tumor. And I looked at all the previous attempts, and I felt that their attempts were to put water into fat, and water and fat don't mix. And I had the knowledge of how to move molecules through tissue, including fatty tissue, in the gut, into the bloodstream. And I thought that by adapting this technology that I was familiar with, that I helped to create for the drug Rybelsus, we could actually move drug throughout a tumor and into the cancer cells, keeping it out of the systemic circulation, which was, not intuitive that this was going to work. It was not obvious that such a thing could be done. But I thought I had the idea that if we could get for the holy grail of cancer drug delivery, which is intratumoral, make it work, we could really change the landscape of how patients will be treated.
So Lou,
The idea, yeah.
just for clarification, when you say intratumoral, you're talking about literally injecting the therapy into the solid mass of the tumor.
That's right. The way we treat cancer today, if you have localized cancer, you cut it out, you radiate it, you ablate it. That does nothing for the metastatic disease. right? So if you have metastatic disease, you don't do any of the local therapy. You just give them systemic chemotherapy or immunotherapy. And systemic chemotherapy goes throughout the whole body, poisons the whole body, causes a lot of off-target toxicities, can even kill the patient. And a lot of times the patients themselves are more afraid of the cancer, more afraid of the chemotherapy
Right. Yep.
regimen than they are of the cancer. They're afraid of dying, but they're afraid of dying in a brutal way, with this brutal chemotherapy regimen that we give. Chemotherapy is dosed based on your height and weight. Your height and weight have nothing to do with how much cancer you have. So if you're trying to hit a few small metastases, or you're trying to hit big metastases, you get the same dose. Doesn't matter because it's set on your height and weight. And height and weight, as I said, is not correlated with outcome. But tumor burden is. Tumor burden is correlated with outcome. The more cancer you have, the worse outcome you're likely to have. The more tumors you have, the worse outcome. So our concept is to treat the tumors, spare the patient, kill, debulk the tumors. And then what we found, and this was not expected exactly, was that the drug, the way this tumor now dies is new. It doesn't die like any other method. And it dies in a way that allows for the tumors to, as it is dying, weaken and weaken and weaken to allow the immune system to come in, train on the cancer, and convert your cancer, your own personal cancer, to your own personal anti-cancer immune response. That is like a vaccine, but it is made out of your own cancer while it's in the body in its own three-dimensional configuration. That was my idea. That was what we did 12 years ago. And as you said, I went to my friends and family came to me and said, well, we'll give you some money. I was at a cocktail party, and one of my very good friends, I was telling him what I was thinking of doing, and he said, well, I'll give you 150. And another guy said, I'll give you 100. And it was like I had already put my own money in, and I had quit my job as a CEO, and I had, taken some of my daughter's college funds to do it. And then it just spread in my neighborhood, and we raised about $2 million for my neighbors and friends and family.
So
And then it just kept building. Yeah.
for generalist investors like me, screening for team, TAM, and novelty, this is just the kind of thing that we like to hear.
Yeah. Look, it is a true entrepreneur. I had an idea. I thought people I knew I had experience in a field that I thought was applicable to what we now do at Intensity. I had the knowledge how to do all of the drug development work because I had trained for 14 and a half years to make something go from discovery to phase 3. I had the drive because of my, desire to help people from my friends that were dying from cancer, because I'm getting to the age where these are risks for more and more of my friends and family.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, a classic entrepreneur working in his basement alone against the world. And now we've partnered with Merck. We partnered with the National Institutes of Health, the National Cancer Institute, Bristol Myers Squibb. We went public in an oversubscribed IPO. And
By the
you
way,
know,
you IPO'd in probably the worst environment in the last 10, 12 years.
I
Really
got to tell
impressive.
you, that was as bad a that was as bad as environment as it gets, and it kept getting worse. Inflation, the wars, all of these things. But you know what? We were always ready. We were always ready. If there was a window, we had an S1 on file and ready to go. And then thanks to two banks, Freedom Capital and Benchmark, we were able to go out and raise substantially more than we had anticipated. That allows us to now get into phase 3 in sarcoma and a phase 2/3 program in triple negative breast. I'm so excited about where we are today from where we were a year ago when we were in the middle of this process. But we've had some great announcements this year. In the second half of the year, we announced some excellent data in sarcoma. We announced some excellent data in breast cancer at the San Antonio Breast Cancer Society Breast Cancer Symposium meeting, and we've been just very excited about the response that we've been seeing lately.
So that most recent readout was just a week ago or so.
It's December 8th, exactly.
A couple of weeks, yeah.
Yeah.
So could you just summarize what that meant? I know it wasn't, I mean, it's incremental, but this is vital for, an early stage company to get these increments right.
Well, I think what was really good is that the data is very interesting because this is really a new way to kill, and it really has a very different ability to give people a good outcome on their cancer with very minimal toxicity. And at San Antonio, we were selected for an oral spotlight presentation. That's a big deal, right? They don't select every poster that comes in or every abstract that comes in. And so Dr. Angel Arnaud, who ran our breast cancer study in 91 women up in Canada, she was asked to present the study and the most recent data, and she did that. And we had some really exciting new data, which was involved an increase over in the clonal diversity in the blood of the T cells. So it's called T cell repertoire. The repertoire shows that there's more binding sites, a diverse T cell repertoire increase. The control had a little bit of an increase, but we had a much bigger increase. So the excitement, and again, we've showed necrosis, we've showed pictures of whole dead tumors on one dose. We've shown that in the past. We've shown extension of survival over what you would have expected in sarcoma and metastatic disease. And we've shown tumors in the San Antonio conference the year before being infiltrated by the immune cells. So if they're being infiltrated by the immune cells, they're coming from somewhere. Well, we did have new data added to the presentation in San Antonio, and so it was very exciting to see the market respond to what we're doing finally.
So when do you expect the first readouts from phase 3? Because you're putting together phase 3 now.
Right. Well, we've got to get the phase 3 started.
Yeah.
Phase 3 is going to be in sarcoma, and then we're going to do hopefully in the first half of the year also start a phase 2/3 program where we'll do phase 2 in our drug added to standard of care chemotherapy in triple negative for pre-surgical patients, and we're going to see if we can increase what's called the pathological complete response rate.
Mm-hmm.
So before I tell you the timeline, we'd like to start studies. So I think the goal right now and the focus and the drive is to get the studies started, and they'll play out. Enrollment could be in the breast cancer first part about a year and a quarter potentially, and then should have data 4 to 6 months after that.
Well, I know your focus is overall survival. So
in sarcoma, yes.
Yeah. So that's going to take some time, but you'll get some data along the way.
Yeah, so FDA accepted the fact we met with them in 2021, and FDA accepted the fact that obviously these are very ill patients, and it's an open label, but we are going against an active comparators. We're going against 3 drugs that are second and third line in sarcoma metastatic disease, pazopanib, eribulin, and trabectedin. These are nasty cytotoxic agents. They have to be carefully monitored on those. Our drug is injected into the tumor. There is some pain. There's only 10% of the patients in our phase 1, phase 2 study had grade 3 adverse events. Again, mostly pain, a little nausea, a little fatigue. So there was a lot milder side effects in ours than is in the comparator. So adding ours to the comparator would not have made sense because we don't think we need the comparator. So we are going to use our drug head to head, a local therapy. We will knock out the tumors, get an immune response, we believe, and compare to the standard of care, which is a very severe toxic drug, and the median overall survival is only about 13 to 14 months with the standard of care in the sarcomas we're going with. Our drug in the phase 2 portion of our study looked like it could, for all patients, even the ones we were underloading and underdosing, because the first part of our study was a dose escalation,
Yeah.
looks like it can extend the survival in these patients from maybe, let's say 14 months, which is what standard care. Now that's second line. We were actually going third line before, but we are planning on going at least to 21 to 22 months. That's how we've modeled it. So it'll be 333 patients. It'll be two, out of every three patients, two will get our drug, one will be randomized to the standard of care. And we anticipate, hopefully, a quick enrollment, because the doctors will know what their patients are getting. And if they see the patients surviving and living, we hope that they will continue to enroll more patients. So we're very excited about the metastatic disease. We believe this will be a paradigm shift in the way you treat cancer, because it is the first time, I think, there will be a head-to-head against an active comparator of a local therapy given locally that can knock out tumors, get an immune response systemically, going against systemic therapy, chemotherapy. It is quite, it will be a big deal if that works. And I think the data supports what we're doing. And I'm very excited about the start of that. We're working towards that for the first half of next year and working very hard to get that done.
Well, the timing couldn't be better because it looks like the pain and suffering in biotech. I'm not going to say for certain it's over, but it feels like we got through the roughest part. So
Well, look, the Fed, I think has controlled inflation a little bit. It looks like the markets think that the Fed, I think, said that they want to lower rates next year. Now, not maybe for the first 6 months, so you might see the market still being somewhat challenging. But you know what? We have the capital to go to the middle of 2025. That includes starting both of these programs.
yeah.
So hopefully we can continue to see a market improvement, like you said. I don't know. I can't control that. I can only control what I can control, which is to start our programs. And hopefully, people will continue to look at what we're doing and see the data and see that when we say we're going to do something, do it. Now, I have to continue to stress out about that. But ultimately, we do try to give accurate predictions of when things are going to be done, not too much, too little.
Yeah.
And I try to work as hard as I can to make sure they are being achieved.
Well, Lou, thank you so much for joining us, and I look forward to following your story in the coming years.
Thanks, Simmons. I appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, bye.